Hey gamers, if you think you can take out all of your opponent's cards with just some clever positioning, then you want to check out Dustbiter's Pocket Edition. Let's take a look at how this game plays. In this game, a player will win if they are able to defeat all of their opponent's cards that are in the lineup. The game starts with 4 cards belonging to each player, with the first player having their cards at the back of the convoy and the second player having theirs at the front of the convoy, so just make sure you know which end is which. On a player's turn, they have 3 action points to use, and there are 4 possible actions. They can build. They will start with 3 cards in their hand each, and then the rest of the cards will be in a draw pile, and they can build a card from their hand just by putting it at the front of the convoy over here. Another option is to drive. They can move one of their cars up in the line, and that will swap places with the thing that is next to it as well. They can also move backwards if they want. Sometimes that'll be beneficial depending on powers, which is the next action that they can take, is use a power. So for instance, I might have moved this mortar bus up because its power is to destroy the car 2 spaces ahead of it. So I might now use that power to go 1-2 and destroy this, putting it on a scrap heap pile, and then we can just collapse the convoy as well. And that'll get me 1 step closer because I have destroyed one of my opponent's cards. The last option that players have, again, they have 3 action points, 4 actions available, is to just draw another card from the draw deck. There's only a few cards in that draw deck, and once you run out, you won't be able to draw anymore, so you might want to try and get those a little earlier. And then the last thing that will happen at the end of each player's turn is to destroy the last card at the back of the convoy, put that on the scrap heap as well. So you kind of have to balance, especially if you're the first player, how you can move your cards up or destroy your opponent's cards so that you're not always at the back of the lineup there. As players go back and forth, more and more cards will be getting destroyed, more and more cards potentially will be added to the lineup for both players, and you'll face them towards yourself to kind of signify who they belong to. And then ultimately, once one player has no more cards facing them, then the other player will be the winner. Overall, I thought that this game was neat, especially for having only 18 cards. I do find a lot of that design really impressive most of the time, because there is a lot kind of going on. There's all different abilities on the 18 different cards, and you're going to get a random shuffle every time, so the game's never going to play exactly the same between the 2 players, which is cool. I did feel like some of the cards, maybe it's just how I play it, of course, or how I kind of like to use certain actions, but I felt like some of the cards were a little bit more powerful than others, and because there's so much about positioning, I felt like a lot of it comes down to that shuffle. If you get a lineup at the beginning of the game where you can kind of take out your opponent's cards immediately, then you're kind of set up a little bit better, which will put you just ahead a little bit, and sometimes that's all you need in order to kind of clutch that win. I think it is hard for the first player because you're immediately going to start losing cards if you're at the back of the convoy, which is really difficult to kind of counteract, again, unless you get a lucky shuffle where you can move something from the front to the back, for example. So I did feel like there's definitely strategy, there's definitely knowing all the ins and outs of all the 18 different powers and stuff, kind of knowing your opponent when they're going to draw or when you might want to draw so you have more options available to you. There's definitely strategy in the game, don't get me wrong, but I did feel like there was also a luck factor that I felt like was out of my control a lot of times. I really wanted to use a certain ability, but my opponent got dealt that at the beginning of the game, so I didn't really have an option to, that kind of thing. So ultimately, I think it's cool if you're into the 2-player head-to-head really quick card games, and this is definitely worth checking out. But you can check out my full thoughts on the blog today to decide if this one's for you.